The Stellar Classroom Revelation. The Galactic Academic Consortium's primary lecture hall hummed with an anticipatory energy that defied the usual sterile atmosphere of interstellar educational institutions. Professor Rendra Voss adjusted the quantum adaptive projection matrix, her multiple sensory tendrils flickering with a mix of excitement and professional restraint. Today, she began, her voice modulating through the universal translators, we delve into the most paradoxical species in known galactic history, humans. The holographic display behind her shimmered, revealing a complex three-dimensional representation of Earth, a planet that looked deceptively unremarkable to the untrained eye. Zara Krell, a junior xenobiological student with iridescent neural patches visible along her cranial ridge, leaned forward with intense curiosity. Nexus, the holographic AI teaching assistant, materialized beside Professor Voss, its crystalline form casting prismatic reflections across the lecture hall. Initiating comprehensive analysis protocol, the AI announced, its voice a perfect blend of academic precision and subtle intrigue. Professor Voss traced the holographic Earth with a delicate sensory tendril. Humans represent an unprecedented anomaly in galactic developmental patterns. They are simultaneously the most destructive and most innovative species we've ever encountered. The classroom's diverse collection of students, ranging from silicon-based life forms to gaseous consciousness clusters, stirred with collective anticipation. Each had heard whispers about humans, but few had been granted such an in-depth academic exploration. What makes humans unique, Professor Voss continued, is their extraordinary capacity for adaptive transformation. Where most species seek stability, humans thrive on disruption. Their evolutionary strategy defies conventional xenobiological understanding. A series of holographic sequences began to dance around the primary Earth projection. Archaeological timelines, technological progression charts, and cellular adaptation models flickered in rapid succession. Each image told a fragment of humanity's complex narrative, a story of constant reinvention. Zara Krell's neural patches began to pulse with an excited bioluminescent rhythm. She raised a carefully modulated communication appendage. Professor, how do they maintain such radical adaptability without systemic collapse? Before Voss could respond, the lecture hall's entrance parted, revealing Ambassador Jorik Tain, a veteran diplomatic contact who had extensive first-hand experience with human interactions. His arrival was unexpected, and the classroom's ambient temperature seemed to shift with his presence. Adaptation is not just a biological mechanism for humans, Ambassador Tain interjected, his voice carrying the weight of decades of diplomatic experience. It's a philosophical approach to existence. They don't just adapt, they reimagine entire paradigms of survival. The holographic displays began to showcase human technological progressions, from primitive stone tools to quantum computing, from local conflict resolution to interstellar communication technologies. Each progression seemed to emerge from what appeared to be chaotic, almost random developmental spurts. Nexus compiled the data streams, creating intricate correlation models. Fascinating, the AI murmured, its crystalline structure refracturing with complex computational patterns. Humans demonstrate a unique ability to transform limitations into opportunities. Their technological leaps often emerge from scenarios of extreme constraint. Professor Voss nodded, her sensory tendrils creating complex geometric patterns that reflected her intellectual excitement. Precisely. Where most species would perceive a challenge as an insurmountable barrier, humans see a problem waiting to be solved. Their innovation isn't linear, it's exponential and often unpredictable. The classroom was now fully engaged, students from various galactic regions leaning into the presentation, their diverse physiological structures united by a singular emotion, profound curiosity. We will explore, Professor Voss declared, how a species from a single planetary system managed to become a subject of such intense galactic fascination. How they transformed from primitive tribal organisms to potential galactic influencers in mere centuries. As the lecture continued, the holographic Earth continued to spin, a silent, complex testament to humanity's inexplicable journey of continuous reinvention. Ambassador Taine watched silently, a knowing smile playing across his diplomatic features. Humans, he knew, were far more than just a species to be studied. They were a cosmic phenomenon waiting to be understood. Quantum shadows of human potential. The research station orbiting the Quantum Research Nebula hummed with an energy that defied conventional scientific understanding. Dr. Finn Walcott stood before a massive holographic interface, his fingers dancing across quantum manipulation matrices that would have driven most species to neural overload. Commander Soren Drift watched from the observation deck, his multispectral vision tracking every minute movement. Humans were an enigma, and nowhere was that more apparent than in the work of researchers like Walcott. "You're attempting to do what precisely?" Drift's translator struggled to capture the nuanced skepticism in his native communication patterns. Walcott didn't even turn. "I'm bridging the gap between quantum potential and biological adaptation," he responded, his fingers never stopping their intricate dance across the holographic interface. Humans have always been exceptional at finding connections where others see only chaos. The quantum interface, an AI system named Horizon, began to pulse with complex algorithmic patterns. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, standing nearby, adjusted her neural interface, her eyes widening as impossible calculations began to take shape. "The quantum entanglement model is stabilizing," Horizon announced, its voice a perfect blend of mathematical precision and subtle anticipation. "Probability matrices are converging in ways previously deemed impossible." Commander Drift stepped closer, his sensory appendages detecting subtle shifts in the station's quantum field. "Your species has a remarkable ability to weaponize scientific discovery," he observed, not as a criticism but as a clinical observation. Walcott chuckled, a sound that seemed to momentarily confuse the translation algorithms. "Weaponize? No. We transform. Every discovery is a potential solution, not just a tool of destruction." The holographic display erupted with a cascade of quantum possibilities. Molecular structures began to dance and reshape themselves, showing adaptive potentials that defied existing scientific understanding. Human DNA strands twisted and reformed, demonstrating an unprecedented capacity for rapid evolutionary adaptation. Dr. Rodriguez gasped. "The quantum resonance is showing biological plasticity beyond our current comprehension. It's as if human genetic structure contains infinite potential for adaptation." Horizon interjected, its crystalline logic processing the data streams. "Humans represent a unique quantum anomaly. Where most species have fixed genetic parameters, human DNA demonstrates a quantum flexibility that borders on the metaphysical." Commander Drift's multispectral vision caught subtle nuances in the quantum field, shifts and potentials that most species would never perceive. "Your unpredictability is your greatest strength," he noted. "And potentially your most dangerous characteristic." Walcott finally turned, his eyes reflecting a combination of scientific passion and something deeper, a fundamental human drive that transcended mere academic pursuit. "We don't see limitations. We see opportunities waiting to be understood." The quantum interface began to project scenarios of human adaptation, biological modifications, technological integrations, neural network expansions. Each projection showed not just survival, but a relentless drive to evolve, to push beyond existing boundaries. "Look," Walcott said, pointing to a complex holographic representation, "most species adapt reactively. Humans adapt proactively. We don't just respond to our environment, we reimagine it." Horizon processed the data, its quantum algorithms struggling to fully comprehend the human approach to adaptation. Probability models suggest an exponential growth potential that defies standard evolutionary trajectories. Dr. Rodriguez moved closer to the holographic display, her neural interface synchronizing with Horizon's quantum processing. "It's not just about survival," she whispered. "It's about constant reinvention. The research station seemed to vibrate with a subtle energy, the energy of potential, of endless possibility. Commander Drift found himself both fascinated and slightly unsettled. Humans were not just another species to be categorized and understood. They were a cosmic variable, unpredictable, transformative, potentially revolutionary. Your species doesn't just explore the universe, Drift finally said. You challenge its fundamental rules. Walcott smiled, a gesture that seemed to contain entire universes of meaning. Exactly, he responded. And we're just getting started. As the quantum interface continued its dance of infinite possibilities, the station hung in space, a testament to human potential, a beacon of uncharted evolutionary promise. The metabolic weapons paradigm. The Quantum Adaptation Network's research facility stretched across multiple environmental zones, a testament to human ingenuity in creating adaptive research spaces. Specialist Kira Nomura stood at the intersection of biological engineering and strategic defense, her eyes scanning complex holographic displays that mapped human physiological potential. Professor Rendak Vrel, a renowned xenobiological researcher from the Galactic Consortium, watched her with a mixture of professional curiosity and growing respect. Your approach to metabolic adaptation is unconventional, he noted, his translation algorithms struggling to capture the nuanced appreciation in his native communication. Kira's fingers danced across the quantum interface, bringing up layers of physiological data that seemed to pulse with living potential. Conventional is just another word for limited, she responded, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years pushing scientific boundaries. Diplomat Ezra Blackwood entered the research chamber, his diplomatic credentials contrasting sharply with the high-tech environment. The Galactic Council is growing increasingly interested in your work, he said, his tone a careful blend of diplomatic courtesy and barely concealed intrigue. The Quantum Adaptation Network, QAN, team had been exploring something far beyond traditional biological research. They were mapping the human body's extraordinary capacity for rapid adaptation, a process that defied everything known about biological evolution. Watch this, Kira said, activating a holographic sequence that showed human physiological responses to extreme environments. The display revealed cellular transformations that seemed to defy fundamental biological principles. Metabolism restructuring itself. Cellular networks reconfiguring in real time. Genetic potential unfolding like a living, breathing algorithm. Professor Vrel's sensory appendages vibrated with scientific excitement. It's not just adaptation, he murmured. It's a form of living quantum computation. The holographic displays began to show scenarios of human survival, from deep-sea environments to extreme radiation zones, from zero-gravity conditions to high-pressure planetary surfaces. In each scenario, human biology didn't just survive, it thrived, reshaping itself with an almost intelligent responsiveness. Diplomat Blackwood leaned closer. The Council is particularly interested in the defensive applications, he said, his diplomatic facade momentarily slipping to reveal a hint of strategic calculation. Kira's eyes narrowed. We're not developing weapons, she stated firmly. We're understanding potential. There's a difference. But the potential was extraordinary. The QAN research showed that human metabolism wasn't just a biological process, it was a dynamic system of continuous adaptation. Cells that could restructure their energy consumption. Genetic networks that could rewrite themselves in response to environmental challenges. A biological system that was more like a living, thinking algorithm than a fixed biological mechanism. Professor Vrel projected additional data streams. Your species doesn't just adapt to environments, he observed. You negotiate with them. Your biology is a form of continuous dialogue with external conditions. The research facility hummed with a subtle energy, the energy of potential waiting to be understood. Each holographic projection told a story of human resilience, of a biological system that refused to be constrained by traditional limitations. The most fascinating aspect, Kira explained, bringing up a complex molecular display, is how quickly human biology can transform. Most species have fixed adaptation cycles that take generations. Humans can undergo significant physiological changes within a single lifetime. Diplomat Blackwood's diplomatic training struggled to process the implications. Biological transformation that could occur in real time. Physiological potential that seemed to defy established scientific understanding. The QAN team had discovered something profound: human biology was not just a system of survival. It was a system of continuous reinvention. Imagine, Professor Vrel said, his voice carrying a mixture of scientific wonder and something approaching respect, a species that doesn't just survive its environment, but actively reimagines its relationship with it. Kira smiled, a gesture that seemed to contain entire universes of scientific potential. "We're not just adapting," she responded. "We're evolving in real time." As the holographic displays continued their dance of molecular possibility, the research facility stood as a testament to human potential, a beacon of biological innovation that challenged everything known about life, adaptation, and the very nature of biological existence. Resonance of adaptive survival. The strategic simulation chamber aboard the Nexus Horizon research vessel pulsed with an intensity that defied conventional military understanding. Commander Marcus Reeves stood at the center of a holographic battlefield, his eyes tracking multiple dimensional layers of potential conflict scenarios. Admiral Talina Zorn watched from the observation platform, her multispectral sensory array parsing the complex data streams with clinical precision. "Explain your human strategic methodology," she demanded, her voice a sharp contrast to the fluid holographic displays. Reeves didn't immediately respond. Instead, he manipulated the holographic interface, causing entire battle scenarios to reshape themselves in real time. Conflict zones morphed, strategic points shifted, and adaptive response protocols rewrote themselves with a fluidity that seemed almost organic. Dr. Imani Okoro, a xenopsychological analyst, stepped forward. "Humans don't just plan strategies," she explained, her fingers tracing complex neural network projections. "We create living strategic ecosystems." The Prism quantum simulation architecture hummed to life, its crystalline processing core generating millions of potential scenarios per nanosecond. Each projection revealed something profound about human strategic thinking, an approach that was less about rigid planning and more about adaptive responsiveness. "Traditional military doctrine assumes fixed parameters," Commander Reeves said, his voice calm and analytical. "Humans operate on a principle of continuous strategic reimagination." The holographic displays began to show historical human conflict scenarios, each one demonstrating an uncanny ability to transform limitations into opportunities. From primitive territorial conflicts to complex interstellar negotiation simulations, the human approach remained consistent, adaptability as a core strategic principle. Admiral Zorn's sensory appendages vibrated with a mixture of professional curiosity and growing professional respect. "Your species turns constraints into advantages," she observed. It wasn't a question, but a statement of emerging understanding. Prism generated a series of complex probability matrices. Conflict scenarios that would paralyze most species became fluid adaptive opportunities for humans. Strategic points weren't fixed positions, they were dynamic intersection points of potential. Dr. Okoro brought up a complex neural mapping display. "It's not about winning," she explained. "It's about continuous adaptation. Most species seek to dominate. Humans seek to transform." The simulation chamber filled with layers of potential, each scenario showing how human strategic thinking defied traditional military understanding. Adaptive responses that emerged from seemingly chaotic input. Strategic thinking that was more like a living, breathing organism than a fixed computational model. Commander Reeves manipulated another interface, bringing up a series of historical human innovations that emerged from conflict scenarios. Medical breakthroughs. Technological advancements. Communication protocols. Each emerged not despite conflict, but because of the adaptive pressure conflict created. "We don't just survive challenges," Reeves said, his voice carrying a quiet intensity. "We use them as catalysts for transformation." Prism's quantum core processed the data, generating increasingly complex probability models. The human approach to strategy defied traditional computational logic. It wasn't about predicting outcomes, it was about creating adaptive potential. Admiral Zorn leaned closer to the holographic display. "Your species doesn't see obstacles," she noted. "You see opportunities waiting to be understood." The simulation chamber continued its dance of potential, a living testament to human strategic imagination. Each projection showed not just survival, but a relentless drive to transform challenges into opportunities. Dr. Okoro smiled, a gesture that seemed to contain entire universes of strategic potential. "Conflict for most species is a problem to be solved," she said. "For humans, it's a system to be understood and reimagined." As the holographic displays continued their complex dance, the research vessel hung in space, a beacon of strategic potential, a living demonstration of human ability to transform challenges into pathways of continuous adaptation and innovation. The Convergence Protocol. The Quantum Harmony Initiative Central Chamber represented the pinnacle of interspecies collaborative research. Dr. Ren Takahashi stood at the nexus of a holographic interface that seemed to breathe with living potential, her fingers tracing complex neural networks that defied traditional scientific understanding. Ambassador Delic Vorn watched from the diplomatic observation platform, his multispectral sensory array parsing the intricate data streams with a mixture of professional curiosity and growing respect. "You're attempting to create something beyond mere communication," he observed, his translation algorithms struggling to capture the nuanced complexity of the human approach. Marco Santiago, a neural interface specialist, adjusted the quantum resonance matrices. "Communication is just the beginning," he responded. "We're exploring convergence, a way of understanding that transcends individual perspectives." The chamber hummed with an energy that seemed to pulse between scientific potential and philosophical revelation. Holographic displays shifted and reformed, showing layers of interspecies potential that went far beyond traditional diplomatic or scientific exchanges. "Humans have always been translators," Dr. Takahashi explained, bringing up complex neural mapping displays. "Not just of language, but of potential. We don't just communicate, we create bridges of understanding." The Quantum Harmony Initiative represented something unprecedented in galactic diplomatic history. It wasn't a traditional research facility or a diplomatic outpost. It was a living laboratory of interspecies potential, a place where the boundaries between species, between scientific disciplines, between entire ways of understanding began to dissolve. Ambassador Vorn's sensory appendages vibrated with a mixture of excitement and professional caution. "Your approach challenges fundamental assumptions about interspecies interaction," he noted. Marco Santiago brought up a series of holographic projections that showed the evolution of human communication, from primitive language development to complex quantum and neural interfaces. Each stage represented not just a technological advancement, but a fundamental reimagining of connection. "We're not just sharing information," Santiago explained. "We're creating a living ecosystem of understanding. Each interaction is an opportunity for mutual transformation." The quantum interfaces began to generate complex probability matrices that showed potential communication pathways between different species. These weren't just translation protocols, they were living, adaptive systems of mutual understanding. Dr. Takahashi's eyes reflected something beyond scientific curiosity, a profound belief in the potential of connection. "Most species see differences as barriers," she said. "We see them as opportunities for mutual growth." The chamber filled with layers of potential, neural networks that seemed to breathe and pulse with living potential. Diplomatic protocols that transformed into scientific discovery. Communication pathways that became bridges of mutual understanding. Ambassador Vorn leaned closer to the holographic display. Your species doesn't just adapt to differences, he observed. You find potential within them. The Quantum Harmony Initiative team had discovered something profound. Communication was not about transmitting information, but about creating shared potential. Each interaction became an opportunity for mutual transformation, for discovering new ways of understanding. Marco Santiago manipulated another interface, bringing up complex neural mapping displays that showed how different species' communication systems could create entirely new forms of understanding. It was less about translation and more about mutual evolution. We're not trying to erase differences, Dr. Takahashi said, her voice carrying a quiet intensity. We're creating a space where differences become a source of collective potential. The research chamber continued its dance of possibility, a living testament to human capacity for connection, for finding potential in the spaces between understanding. Each projection showed not just communication, but a fundamental reimagining of what connection could mean. As the holographic displays continued their complex dance, the Quantum Harmony Initiative stood as a beacon of possibility, a demonstration of human ability to transform challenges into pathways of mutual understanding and collective potential. Ambassador Vorn's final observation captured the essence of the human approach. You don't just explore the universe, he said. You create new ways of experiencing it.